Hello everyone, Seedlink here with another episode of Unranked Gameplay. Haven't been doing too well against Zerg. That's mainly because I just haven't been going for siege tanks at all. I gotta remember now that after watching my past one, the big mistake was that I didn't go for siege tanks. The siege tanks can do decently against banelings, and they're better against the swarm host because the swarm host just sucked up all the Widowmine shots, but also they're much better against Hydralisks and Roaches, which he did also transition to near the end, which just put in the finishing blow because my army was not good to take on his at all. And now I'm going to be facing the Terran. So I'm someone who has pretty much not been able to do anything because TvT, it's all the game is defend early game against Reapers, and then after that, just pretty much you have to get your perfect army composition of like 40 Marines, 7 Siege Tanks, 6 Vikings, 5 Ravens, and then you fight. Otherwise, if you fight any time earlier than that and you're missing one of those key ingredients, you lose the entire game. You lose your entire army, generally speaking. And if you separate, that's a big thing. Like, a lot of the lower league games are actually a lot more like smarter than the upper league games, because like upper tier players will do stupid things like put their tanks completely in the open where there's nothing defending against like air attacks like from like liberators or anything. Like they're completely open to liberators, because like generally speaking, liberators are useless against siege tanks. They're completely useless because you not only does it take ages to siege up to the point where 30 Marines will easily kill them, but even if you don't have, which is, and 100% of the time you'll have those 30 Marines. So unless you're gonna unless you want your Liberator to die, unless you want, you know, them to say like, oh, here's like here's a free tank, here's here's like 3 free tanks, it's super easy to kill. Like that's what a lot of pro players are doing. They're just leaving their tanks out in the open. If they didn't do that, it would be impossible for their army to die, pretty much. Because there's nothing that beats siege tanks nowadays. The tank lines in the game are just kind of broken. And when people say like, "Oh, you just gotta get, you know, the vision," well, 95% of the time, both players will have vision. Newsflash. Like, it's just stupid.
Our SCVs are under attack.
SCV ready.
Not enough minerals.
You're the boss. Go ahead. SCV ready. Move it. This better be good. In the rear, in the ear. Who wants some? Go, go, go!
Our SCVs are under attack. Is under attack.
Huh? Bad news? Been waiting. You gonna give me orders? By the number, boys. Gangway, coming through. Want a piece of me, boy?
Not enough minerals.
The Grim Reaper has arrived. Go, go, go! This better be good. Let's do this. Done. Got something. Gangway, coming. Armed and ready.
It's a cheese, dude. That's pretty much what TvT is about, is cheesing. This is why it's so stupid. Like, this can easily kill people if they go for Fast Factory. But at the same time, Fast Factory can be really good at defending this, since it leaves them very vulnerable.
Center upgrade complete.
You want a piece of me, boy? Who wants some? Armed
Oh, sorry, buddy. That Cyclone's dead. Oh. Hopefully it doesn't swear here. Sadly, this isn't ranked, but this is kind of how I do it. I did actually mess up my build order a bit by going for that third supply depot. I wanted to kind of lock that like SCV in, and if he wanted to get out, I would let him out, but then just make it so he couldn't get back in because he knew what was up. He was actually searching for the proxy. And that's actually the first game I think I've won where they actually scouted me. This is going to be a short video, but this is the cheese I do pretty much every time in TvT because you can't go for quick command center in TvT like ever because Reapers just wreck you, and a proxy like this can wreck you as well. And what I do with this is I go for the 3 barracks and I go for the supply depots, 2 supply depots back at home and a refinery, so that I not only get Marines, which are produced quickly, but I can produce 1 or 2 Reapers every now and again. So if they have like 3 barracks as well, which seems like people go for a lot more than they should, I can get Reapers to get rid of their Marines. The big factor is that once they notice it, or if they scout me, they will immediately place a bunker. And that's the big problem. If they get that bunker up, I lose the game. If they don't get the bunker up, and they don't have a factory with a tech lab on it, they almost have a guaranteed chance of losing. Because that's the thing. If he put a tech lab on that factory and made a siege tank, he could have just outright won. Because the siege tank destroys bio units so easily that one siege tank can kill like 20 Marines no problem. And sure, and the big factor was there that I had the Reapers, so I could have possibly gotten rid of the tanks. But the tanks honestly don't. The tanks are just what's ruining TvT. Widow Mines versus Widow Mine. Every single other army composition is completely useless. Marine tank versus Marine Widow Mine. Tank is better. A few Hellbats or rush Hellions in to try to deal with the siege tanks. Doesn't work because of how low health the Hellions have. Cyclones. Cyclones are a unit that honestly people say is really powerful, but it's honestly incredibly weak, specifically for what it costs. I mean, if you're going to use a unit that costs as much as a siege tank, at least give it a valid job. Like, it locks onto air units, but it does very little damage, and you can't even attack air units without the lock-on, which it could before, so that's honestly stupid. It does very little damage overall. Like, I've like 2 Marauders deal more damage than a frickin' Cyclone does. So it really makes no sense the Cyclone's job when they removed the lock-on for ground and air units, or ground and buildings, because with buildings I can understand because that doesn't really make sense because it's like move and go. But if you remove it for the ground units, there you can at least say like, get away from me. You're not going to chase me down because you're going to take too much damage. But I mean, if you're not going to have that, you need to give it some strength. And it doesn't do bonus damage towards light units. In fact, light units can wreck the Cyclone. Siege tanks wreck the Cyclone. Multiple Stalkers can wreck the Cyclone. 5 Adepts can wreck a Cyclone with very little damage taken. It's just, even the Cyclone, even just buff, if you're going to have, like, the Cyclone not deal air damage, but have a lock-on, at least make it so the lock-on damage is very high, so it's, like, meant to deal with really, early Oracle pressure really well, to the point where it would, like, 5 or 6 shot an Oracle, to the point where they really can't approach you if you have a Cyclone, or make it so that, and in the same way, that could be used very aggressively because of the mothership core. Because the thing is, if you're gonna go for like a push with just Marines and Cyclones, there's no scenario where the Cyclones are better than the siege tank. It's just kind of stupid to me. There's a lot of imbalancing with Terran, and I feel like people, especially master people, Starcraft 2 commentators and Loco TV. I like Loco, but a lot of stuff he says about TvT is honestly kind of stupid. And it really needs to be changed. Ever since, even back in the days of Wings of Liberty, the tank was all everyone used, and it got buffed. And people think the tank-evac was, like, perfectly fine. Like, the tank-evac wasn't overpowered in the slightest. Then all of a sudden, master people start complaining about how the Raven is the most overpowered thing in the world, after it got buffed very slightly when no one ever used it. This is just like the community that... The community is good, it's just a lot of stuff that, like, to do a little rendition of the Tangled song, Grandmaster people know best. It's like, not... I mean, you look at, like, say, cannon rushes. People in Diamond, Master, or even freaking, like, Gold League cannon rush better than Grandmaster people do. Like, you can see Gold people transition very easily while doing a ton of pressure with the cannon rush. In Grandmaster, you never see that. You see less aggression than Gold people do, if anything, and they never transition. So, just keep that in mind for a lot of you. I mean, I'm only Platinum, and a lot of that's because I've been facing TvT a lot, and I've been doing this cheese. I've been losing to it quite a bit, just because they've gotten bunkers, even though they haven't scouted me, which is kind of stupid. Maybe because they're probably expecting something which is obvious. But the thing about TvT that I think it needs to change to is that the thing about TvT is that it's a mirror matchup that, theoretically speaking, the Terran are made to be a race that is dependent on drops. But in truth, you never ever see drops unless it's Doom drops, because you can have like 10 turrets around your base and just... You can kill 3 medevacs before they even unload units. So it's never ever cost effective for the dropper. So one idea that I think should happen is that there should be an upgrade either in the cyber core or in a tech lab on a starport, but you need a cyber core for it, or not a cyber core, a fusion core, and it's an expensive upgrade that makes it so that when your medevacs die, all units will drop out of it. What this means is that when you shoot down a medevac, the units will immediately drop. And this is both good and bad, because if you have a late game and say you're being chased down, when the units drop, you're not going to be able to siege up a siege tank, for example, so those units will die one way or another. But in terms of, say, a Doom drop, you can fly your medevacs in, or even just a drop in general. You can fly your medevacs in, the medevacs will die, but all the units will survive, and they'll do the damage they want to. Because that's the thing, you never see drops unless there's no turrets and no siege tanks in the base, which honestly never happens. And if it does happen, it's just Grandmaster people or Master people being very, very, kind of one-sided. Like, that you see a lot of time in Master and Grandmaster leagues. People mess up a lot, like leaving siege tanks alone in the nowhere for kind of no reason, or just moving every single army unit out from their base to leave their base undefended for a counterattack. This has been a long rant about TvT, but I've wanted to get this off my skin for so long. People in comment sections have raged about this when I've talked about it for so much, but I mean, I really do think that the community needs to, suck some stuff up. If you're going to complain and say that we need the tank-evac back, when the tank-evac was so easy to micro because it was just 2 units that freaking Gold or Platinum League players could get like 7-10 drone kills and 15 Zergling kills, and only the medevac and the tank would have half their health gone. I mean, it kind of fixed TvT because it's not completely one-sided engagements, and it's not just based off who sieges their tanks up faster, it's who places their tanks quicker. And even then, it was kind of equal, because it wasn't, like, completely one-sided, but at the same time, like, buffing the siege tank in general when it's already a really good unit, it just doesn't make sense. they've also nerfed the Void Ray, and even though people say the Void Ray is a very bad unit, I've seen multiple times master people say the Void Ray is a very good unit, and it's always a viable unit. But then anytime you see them casting a game, they always say Void Ray. This Void Rays are horrible. Well, why are you making Void Rays? No one makes Void Rays. I'm just like, you gotta make your mind up. So I kind of use that, the fact that this is going to be a short video, to rant a bit. But also a lot of stuff is like tanks in like TvZ and tanks in TvP. People use that, and people, like if Grandmaster, people complain about siege tanks, it's only in TvP, despite the fact that Protoss have a very good time countering siege tanks. Blink Stalkers wreck siege tanks. Adept Shades wreck siege tanks. Disruptors wreck siege tanks. It's, it's something that really just bugs me a lot more. And just because, like, most people agree with it, just because most people, or just because a lot of people say it, just because doesn't mean it's not true. I mean, look at all those anti-Trump people out there. Black people can't be racist. Okay, I'm going to go off. I'm going to leave before I really start saying things I'm going to regret. But I hope that some of you will at least take my points to heart. And about nerfing the siege tank, I know a way to nerf the siege tank that makes it very viable. If anything, more viable than it is now. Well, maybe not more viable than it is now, but it makes it. It pretty much doesn't nerf it, but it changes it completely to the point where its overpowered points aren't overpowered. It doesn't, like, tanks can one-shot stalkers, and like 5 stalkers cost as much as 1 siege tank. Yet when you have 5 siege tanks, like, one-shot 5 stalkers and do massive splash damage that almost kills like 10. Okay, I'm really just getting enough. And sure, the argument of it's static is understandable, but you can literally be right next to a siege tank and it will still shoot you. So Blizzard needs to at least fix that. But that's going to be it for this little rant and this little short gameplay with you guys. So I'll see you guys later.